Welcome back to The Clean Truth by Roobi.
And welcome. You are listening to episode 10, and we've titled this one, New Year, Cleaner Habits, How Small Eco-Friendly Changes Make a Big Impact.
We are kicking off the year with a deep dive into a topic that I think for a lot of people just feels overwhelming: sustainable living. You hear that and you immediately picture solar panels, maybe composting toilets, but our mission today is a bit different. We want to focus on how everyday habits, right there at home.
In the kitchen, the laundry room.
Exactly. How those things collectively can create a massive, really meaningful environmental impact.
Absolutely. The core idea we really want to hammer home is that sustainability isn't an all-or-nothing thing. It's not about being perfect.
Right.
It's about making small, realistic, repeatable shifts in your daily routines. And for us, that means looking squarely at how we all approach cleaning and laundry.
Okay, so if we start right there, what does sustainable living actually mean in practical terms, like without the jargon?
Well, historically, in the more academic sense, it's defined by what's called the triple bottom line.
That sounds complicated.
It sounds it, but it just means living a lifestyle that meets our current needs. So economically, socially, and ecologically without, messing it up for future generations.
So the three Ps: people, planet, and profit.
Mm-hmm.
Or economic viability in this case. It's about finding a balance.
It's all about balance. And when you apply that to your cleaning routine, it means finding a way to get things clean that preserves the health of the planet and the people using the products, while still being cost-effective and, crucially, convenient for you.
And that is the link we're always focused on here at Roobi. We know that clean habits have to be simpler, lower waste, and super effective. Because if they're not convenient, they just won't stick.
Yeah, okay.
And the beauty of it is that choosing, say, one highly efficient detergent or running the washer a bit differently, when you multiply that by millions of homes, it transforms into these massive environmental benefits.
And that's what we'll be doing. We're connecting the major areas of impact water, energy, and waste directly to your household routines. This deep dive, I think, will offer some genuinely surprising insights.
Let's explore how small, eco-friendly changes can make a big difference, starting right at home. Okay, let's unpack this. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of laundry, we need to set a baseline. We often think of our footprint in terms of cars or flights. But how much impact does a regular home lifestyle actually have?
It is staggering, and it's often overlooked because it's so sort of localized. Data shows that on a global scale, just the shelter aspect of living,
So the building itself.
the building, the heating, the maintenance, it's associated with about 25% of the greenhouse gas emissions tied up in all our household purchases.
A quarter. A full quarter of our footprint is just the roof over our heads.
And then if you look beyond the structure, the home becomes even more dominant. Take food, for instance. Food accounts for 48% of the environmental impact on land use and a massive 90% of household impact on water resources.
Wow, 90%. So our water impact is almost entirely driven by food choices.
Mm-hmm.
That really puts the home between the building, what we eat, and how we clean it, right at the critical starting point for any real change.
Precisely. We talk a lot about sustainable housing in terms of design using local materials, orienting the house for passive heating, and that's all essential.
Right, the architecture.
But what we're emphasizing today is the internal practices. Once the house is built, the biggest continuing impact comes from, as you put it, the software, our daily routines. If your optimally designed home still uses tons of water, you're undermining a huge part of that benefit.
So we're optimizing the software. Okay, so given that 90% water impact is from food, what's the next big drain we can actually control with our cleaning habits?
That takes us straight to water use and our appliances. And here's where it gets really, really interesting. The average American home uses about 70 gallons of water per person per day, just indoors.
70 gallons.
And the second biggest user of that water, right after toilets, is clothes washing.
It accounted for something like 23% of U.S. indoor water use, at least back in the late 90s. And even with better tech, it's still a huge factor. So what makes some washing machines so much less efficient than others?
It's purely down to mechanical design, specifically the axis of rotation. Most people grew up with, or still use, the traditional vertical axis washing machine.
The classic top loader with the big agitator in the middle.
That's the one. They work by filling the entire tub, we're talking 40 gallons or more, with water, submerging the clothes, and then just thrashing them around. They get the job done, but they are total water hogs.
They rely on volume and brute force. So what's the more efficient alternative?
The horizontal axis machine, what most of us just call a modern front loader. These machines only put enough water in the bottom of the tub to saturate the clothes, sometimes as little as 5 or 10 gallons.
Just a small pool at the bottom.
Exactly. And the tub rotates, tumbling the clothes through that water. It uses gravity and the tumbling action to clean instead of needing full submersion.
I know a lot of people might be nodding along, but they might also be thinking about the sticker shock.
Mm-hmm.
Aren't those machines a lot more expensive up front?
Right.
Does that cancel out the savings for a lot of people?
That's a crucial point. It's part of that triple bottom line calculation, right? The initial cost is higher, but the long-term savings are significant, especially if you do a lot of laundry. You save on water, so a lower utility bill. You save on energy because you're heating less water.
Ah, right.
And there's a bonus we often forget. That gentle tumbling is much easier on your clothes. They last longer. So the overall life cycle cost, over time, often favors the efficiency game. It's a long game.
That makes a strong case for the long game. Okay, so what about dishes? You said dishwashing is only about 1% of indoor water use,
Yeah.
but there are still gains to be made, especially with detergent chemistry.
Yes, this is where product innovation links directly to energy and water use. I mean, beyond the basics, run it only when it's full, use the eco setting, we look at the detergent itself, specifically enzymatic detergents.
Tell me more about this aha moment with enzymes. Why do they let us use less water at lower temperatures?
It's all about the mechanism. Traditional detergents rely on high heat and agitation to basically dissolve fats and scrub away food. Enzymes, though, are nature's little specialists. They are proteins designed to target and break down very specific things.
Like what?
Well, amylase breaks down starches, protease for proteins, lipase for fats.
So they don't just dissolve the mess, they dissect it.
Precisely. They work at a molecular level, and here's the key. They are incredibly efficient at lower temperatures. So if your detergent is engineered with these enzymes, you just don't need that extreme heat of 140, 150 degrees. The enzymes do the heavy lifting in cooler water.
That's profound. Because heating water is one of the most energy-intensive things we do at home. So you're not just saving water, you're making a massive cut in your energy footprint with every load.
It's a direct link. You make the cleaning chemistry smarter, and the appliance's workload and its resource demand drops substantially. This is also why we always tell people to look for the Energy Star label. It's a simple government-backed guarantee that the appliance is way more efficient than it's legally required to be.
It's fascinating how much our footprint is determined not just by the hardware, the machine, but by the chemical software we put inside it.
And if you want to push that water efficiency to the absolute limit, we have to talk about gray water.
Okay, so that's the used water from washing machines, sinks, baths.
Mm-hmm. Non-sewage sources.
It sounds like a great system for conservation, but if it's so good, why isn't everyone doing it?
Well, that's where complexity and regulation come in. You can collect gray water, filter it a bit, and reuse it for irrigating your garden or even flushing toilets. But because it has traces of soaps and detergents, the plumbing needed to manage it safely can get complex and expensive. And a lot of cities have really strict rules about it, making it a high hurdle for the average homeowner.
So it's a great idea in theory, but the practical hurdles, the cost, the regulations, often get in the way for most of us. It brings it back to that triple bottom line again.
Yeah. Okay, moving from water to the third pillar, waste. We all know the 3 R's, reducing, reusing, recycling, but for a deep dive, we need to understand why reduction is always the first and most important one.
Reduction comes first because waste production has these powerful environmental consequences long before it even gets to a landfill. It contributes to CO2, but even more powerfully, to methane emissions.
And methane is the real villain here, isn't it?
It is. It's a super potent greenhouse gas, much better at trapping heat in the short term than CO2.
Mm-hmm.
When organic stuff food scraps, even some cleaning residue decomposes without oxygen in the landfill, it releases methane. And on top of that, landfills can leach hazardous materials into the soil.
So reduction is critical. How do we tackle that with our shopping choices for cleaning supplies? I mean, beyond just buy in bulk. The modern choice really involves looking at the life cycle of the packaging. Buying in bulk is good. It cuts down on containers. But even better is embracing concentrates and refill systems.
Can you elaborate on that?
Okay, think about a typical ready-to-use cleaning spray. You're buying a heavy plastic bottle that is mostly water.
Right.
That bottle has to be made, labeled, and shipped, adding weight and resources every step of the way. If you switch to a concentrated refill, like a tiny pod or a light pouch, you eliminate 90% of that water weight being shipped.
So the goal is to stop buying water in a single-use container. That makes perfect sense.
Exactly. And the other critical piece of reduction is limiting the toxicity of the waste we do create.
Which links directly back to the product formulation itself.
Yes. We have to be mindful of things with limited use, like a big can of paint you only use once. But most critically, we limit the toxicity by choosing non-hazardous or at least less hazardous cleaning alternatives whenever we can. If the residue going down the drain or the empty container being thrown out is chemically benign, its impact is just so much smaller.
Now, when we talk about reuse, the classic example is the canvas bag for groceries.
And that simple action saves natural resources immediately. You decrease the need for raw material extraction petrochemicals for plastic, you eliminate the energy needed to make and ship millions of single-use bags, and you reduce the huge burden of their disposal.
But we can't talk about disposal without bringing up the global plastic crisis. The vast majority of cleaning products still rely on plastic.
That's the single biggest challenge in this whole conversation. The sheer rise in plastic debris is because it's so durable, it's convenient, and our population keeps growing. What's so troubling is that most plastics are built to last for centuries. They don't break down naturally.
They just break up.
They just break up into smaller and smaller pieces, microplastics, that accumulate in habitats and harm human and animal well-being for generations. That longevity is why reduction finding alternatives like refill systems, glass, aluminum has to be the priority over just relying on recycling.
But recycling is still essential to closing the loop, right?
It is, but we have to remember it's a three-part system. You have collection, then manufacturing the used item into a new product, and then, crucially, us buying that new recycled product. If that third step doesn't happen, the whole system breaks down.
And finally, for items that have to be discarded, there's upcycling.
Upcycling is fantastic, it's creative, it converts material into something of similar or even greater value in its second life, whether it's composting vegetable scraps for your soil instead of landfilling them, or giving a durable plastic container a new job in the garage. You just keep it in the cycle and out of the waste stream.
So when you put it all together, what does this all mean? The path to a sustainable life at home really isn't about massive, expensive renovations or, extreme deprivation.
Not at all.
It's about recognizing the cumulative power of
Yeah.
all these small changes that are actually available to us right now.
Exactly. I mean, we've covered everything from the mechanical changes, like the huge savings, from switching from a vertical axis washer to an efficient horizontal axis one, to the chemical shifts.
And those chemical shifts are so key. Opting for smarter cleaning products, like those enzymatic detergents, which let you drop the temperature and the amount of water you need, saving huge amounts of energy.
Then you apply that same logic to what you buy, prioritizing concentrates and refill systems to slash packaging waste and shipping energy.
That's the core realization. If food accounts for such a massive piece of a household's impact, and our homes and appliances account for another huge chunk, the compounding effect is undeniable. If every home, every neighbor, just adopted these simple low-flow, low-waste habits, the collective action of all those tiny, efficient habits would create real, measurable change.
And that is the perfect place to end this deep dive. While so many sustainable changes require huge infrastructural support like city transit or renewable power grids, the specific changes we talked about today,
Water use, appliance choice, waste reduction.
all of that, it starts and ends entirely with your individual habits. And that collective momentum starting right there at the individual level is truly how sustainable development actually happens.